Mr. Hamadanchi, what is the main argument the other side uses on the warrant requirement? We think there should be a warrant. They have an argument. Can you tell the committee what that argument is?
They will typically say, we have lawfully collected this information already, so we should be able to search through it. The Second Circuit has recognized that the search of a U.S. person's data is a separate Fourth Amendment event that requires a separate Fourth Amendment analysis.
Yeah. I mean, that's their argument. Oh, we followed the law. We were searching foreigners overseas for intel, right? That's what the law says they can do. And they said, we followed the law, so now we can search the data for Americans. And that's the problem. And the court in New York just last year said, no, you can't do that. The court said this. I mean, here's a fundamental question. Tell me if you agree. Should the government be allowed to do warrantless searches of the same information Section 702 says it's not allowed to collect?
The court was very clear that they should not be able to do that.
Right, because the law says it. You're supposed to collect information on foreigners overseas for intelligence. And now there are people who say, no, you don't need a warrant because we're going to do searches for Americans using their identifiers, their email, their phone number, their name. Well, that's not supposed to be in there. And the court said, you can't have it both ways. That is what the other side wants. They want to have it both ways. And they can call it incidental. They can say we're doing a query, not really a search. That doesn't fly. And again, don't take our word for it. The court in New York said so December of last year. Is that right?
Yes, and the court said, like citing the Second Circuit, that simple storage is not enough. And it cited, I believe, Riley versus California, which gave the example of a case where they had lawful possession of a cell phone. They still needed a warrant to be able to search the contents of that cell phone.
Yeah, this is, I mean, we had, the chairman knows, we spent a year debating this within our conference and with our friends on the other side last Congress, and we're about ready to go back into the same darn fight for the next year. But this court decision, we didn't have that last year. And I like the way they said it. They said it would be paradoxical to permit warrantless searches of the same information that Section 702 is specifically designed to avoid collecting. You're not supposed to collect information on Americans, but, oh, we did the search of foreigners and we got some, so now we can search Americans. No, that makes no sense. But that has been the argument year after year, Congress after Congress, and hopefully we can get to common sense. And what the court said, this Congress, and say, time out. Can't do it anymore. And we'll still put the exceptions in, for goodness sake. So to answer their other argument, oh, there could be an emergency situation, imminent threat. Okay, fine. We don't want bad things to happen to America. Fine. You can do that. And if we can't get this passed, it is, I don't know. I was so frustrated because, you know, losing beats, or winning beats losing every time, and a tie is a loss. And that's what we had last time. And we got to make sure we win this time, Mr. Raskin. We need to make sure we win this time. I will yield my time to either to the chairman or to Mr. Klein. I have a minute and 40 seconds left. Mr. Klein.
Mr. Klein.
I think it's important to note at the outset the successes that we did have in the last Congress in reauthorizing FISA for the protection of America and American national security, while instituting some truly significant reforms, which were developed through the painstaking work of this committee and in a bipartisan way, in a committee that's not always known for its spirit of kumbaya bipartisanship. We were able to find a lot of common ground in protecting civil liberties without burdening the ability of our national security officials to protect Americans. However, there is, as Chairman Jordan noted, more work to do. But I do think it's important to look at what was done in the bill that was signed into law in the last Congress. We had reforms that included new and heightened civil and criminal penalties for those who violate the terms of the FISA authorities, and it required reporting on FBI disciplinary investigations. It requires the FBI to establish minimum accountability standards for violations of the querying process. The bill significantly reduced the number of FBI personnel authorized to approve queries, required audits of U.S. person queries, and included increased transparency measures, among other important reforms. So I think there is a broader question here, though, when it comes to the pace at which we are seeing technology develop and the newfound opportunities that that opens up for very problematic violations of privacy or uses of surveillance, but then at the same time, the opportunities to perhaps use that technology not only to advance national security and public safety, but to do so in a more narrowly tailored way. So advances in AI are an example of that, where there are obviously a host, an unlimited variety of potentially problematic uses by those who are entrusted with the power to investigate American citizens, but then there are also already a number of very positive proven use cases. So my thought, and I'll maybe direct this at you, Mr. Hamadanchi, is on how we can harness this technology in the right way going forward. You give an example, I think, of how there was one police agency in Florida that, or maybe this was you, but so either you can weigh in on it, but that used an algorithm to try to predict where crimes were more likely to occur. And that seems like it actually could be helpful if it allows us to allocate police resources in the right way, but maybe unhelpful if it leads to people being targeted prematurely or in a way that violates their civil liberties. So I guess I'll give either of you an opportunity to opine on that. Maybe we'll start with Mr. Hamadanchi, and then since I misremembered who actually gave this example, I'll give you the opportunity as well.
I would say we're definitely concerned about the use of AI in surveillance. And more than 4 years ago, we had a report where agencies were saying they want to embed AI in every stage of the intelligence cycle. And the NSA stands out in this context because it has described itself as a leader in integrating AI into intelligence gathering. And there are real concerns that AI is being used to automate target selection and potentially initiating surveillance without adequate human review. And that's something the committee should look into as it considers these issues.
Thank you for the question, Representative. I think that it is incredibly important. As you rightly note, artificial intelligence is a tool. It's a pretty neutral, values-neutral kind of thing. It depends on who's using it as to whether or not that can be used for good or for bad. And it's really unfortunate when we see instances like what happened in Florida, where they were using AI to develop this algorithm to identify prolific offenders and then give them, community visits. One such person ended up in the hospital with symptoms of an anxiety attack because of the presence of law enforcement coming up and showing on their door. You can imagine that is a very frightening experience for some people. So I think that it just reinforces the need. I don't want to go and take away a tool from law enforcement from being able to leverage a tool like artificial intelligence or other technologies that are out there. But I do think that it's important to make sure that if they're going to be using it, that we have proper rules and guidelines and procedures in place to minimize the potential downside here. Because when the state does leverage these technologies and they get it wrong, the costs are really high, both for the city that ultimately bears the responsibility of the legal action that follows, and for the victims in that case. So I think that there's a really good conversation to be had about what we can do to go and better set guardrails around this so that law enforcement doesn't lose access to critical tools that can help them with their public safety functions while simultaneously protecting people's Fourth Amendment rights.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, that getting this right is really important, not just for protecting civil liberties in the first instance, but also because there are so many truly beneficial applications of AI in this and other contexts, and that if we don't get these threshold questions right for protections, then it could lead to a backlash that undoes those possibilities. And with that, I yield back to the chair.
Thanks. I think the